with the next session on safeguarding industrial operations, essential OT-ICS cybersecurity measures by Mr. Mukesh Jain, CTO and Executive Vice President, Capgemini. Please put your hands together for Mr. Jain. Mukesh is an expert in technology, having led multinational corporation for over 29 years, 13 years at Microsoft in the areas of innovative, big data analytics, artificial intelligence, generative AI, sustainability, and people-centeredness. He has practical knowledge in establishing, leading, and overseeing major GCC projects in India: Microsoft Hyderabad, Microsoft Bangalore, NICE Pune, and VFS Mumbai. He is a special combination of people, technology, globalization, business, analytics, management, and execution. An industry-recognized leader in the field of digital advertising, analytics, AI, software engineering, user experience, product management, and the community for process excellence. He also talks about these subjects frequently in TEDx, business schools, engineering colleges, and international conferences. He has written and published 2 books in the United States, and he's currently working on a 3rd one. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Jai Jinendra, Namaskar, Namaste, and a good morning to all of you. How are you doing so far? Good? So when I talk about cybersecurity, some of the other elements right now, both the sides, we are using artificial intelligence. The other side, not so good side, is also using artificial intelligence to be able to crack our systems. And with generative AI, they are getting smarter and smarter. And we need to be at least one step ahead of that. And that's the reason. Why do we need AI right now? Because everything is connected. When you talk about industry, every element of the industry connected, every parts of in and out, digital, everything is connected, which means anytime, anywhere, on any device, an attack can happen. Thinking from that angle, right, how best to be able to do. People could be spoofing the data, saying, hey, the temperature is very, very low, increase the temperature. And the temperature was normal, and then increases, and it becomes too hot or too cold. The attack can happen in any format. Or, specifically, like, for example, specific gas leakage. It could be false alarm. Or the other way around, where the actual leakage is happening, but the system doesn't report to us. A lot of those things do happen there. Now, one of the elements we have to start looking into is human behavior. In all my 29 years of experience, I've always focused on human behavior. So how many of you use Outlook? Use Outlook? Several of you, almost. So I used to work for Microsoft in Outlook, 1999 when I joined. I came to know that Bill Gates used to get 16,000 junk email per day. That was a lot. When we get 10 junk email, we actually feel upset, right? So without knowing anything, without doing anything, I just raised my hand saying, "Puchne mein kya jata hai," right? I want to try and solve this problem. Of course, my management told me not to work on it because that's a PhD level problem and all. I still don't have a PhD. So I thought, you know what? Instead of focusing on text, dollar, lottery, and Africa, and all those parts, can I look at the human behavior? Now think about it. Are you going to read a junk email for more than 5 seconds? Are you going to delete an important email in less than 3 seconds? No, you're not going to do that. That's human behavior. Exactly here. If you start and look at all the behavior or human behavior, all the behavior of our devices and all, and start establishing patterns. And with artificial intelligence, we can say, hey, is this pattern appears to be an anomaly? And that's the best part of it, to be able to detect and predict. So when we did this part, we created a system. Within first week, 94% of the junk of Bill Gates was caught. And that's why, if you're getting less junk in Outlook, you can thank me for that. Okay? And that's how the human behavior element translated into something meaningful has to happen. Right? I'm talking about 1999. Of course, now we have a lot more power to us. And that's where, how can we do AI-based threat detection? Specifically for industry, things can go wrong really bad. So I had zero experience in industry, but luckily after joining Capgemini for last 6 years, I'm doing projects anywhere and everywhere. And when I'm doing this, the only question I'm asking is there a pattern? Can I understand this part even better? Can I create some system over there? Can I look at the pattern and detect and do something? And that's exactly the part of AI. right? Now, so many industry projects we have at Capgemini, some really top brands, we were able to implement some of those projects just to look at the pattern and predict. Yes, there'll be false positive. There will always be false positive, right? But then over a period of time, when you optimize it, if the false positives are less than reasonable, definitely you will do wonders. And of course, doing predictive, right? For example, understanding that part that yes, this particular system or this particular device have a drift, have a bias, right? Even though the device, IoT device, normally we think it's good, right? But then it also developed drift and bias. As sir was also already mentioning, there was a bias by one of the top company wherein they were rejecting all the female employees' resume because the training model was bad. But I would say there are 5 levels of mistake happened in that part. First, training model was wrong, which means the input was wrong, right? Second, somebody should have decided gender should not be the parameter. Third, somebody should have reviewed, people like CTO or somebody, before it was approved. Most important part, somebody should have monitored that, hey, female employees, why is all of them are getting rejected? Why am I not getting any female employee resume? So all the multiple layer of failures happen. Failure doesn't happen at one place because we have good checks and balance in place. And that's exactly the part. If you do some predictive part, definitely a lot of wonders can happen there. So when you talk about this part, specifically when we go into the areas of OT and ICS, one of the major element comes out over here is malware, right? A malware, of course, some of this part can come in and then start spoofing the data. Maybe the initial part, the way normally when the threat happens, right? It may be spoofing exact the data, but it is there, spoofing, and slowly introducing bias, slowly introducing drift. And we will not even understand because it's a less than 1% drift. Over a period of time, it becomes 2%, 3%, 10%, and boom, at some point it will just break, right? Things like phishing attacks. This is the most common one. The word IoT, Internet of Things, have 2 parts. We all know that part, sensors and actuators, right? But the important part of the Internet was the reason because of the IP address. That it's connected and it has an IP address. Now, it was reason because I want to have uniquely identifiable devices, which is now closely 10 billion devices in the world we have it, more than the people. But that's what the challenge is. If I can spoof an IP address, if I can spoof something and I say, hey, I am your device and I'm sending you this data point, yes, that's where the phishing attack can happen over there as well. Okay, insecure network protocol. Even today, like several places we see, the passwords are still the same. I remember when I was at Microsoft, when we had NIMDA virus, some of you may remember, admin NIMDA, right? And there was a classic I love you virus in Outlook, Microsoft Outlook, where people used to open it and boom, it will attack the object model. This was supposed to help you do programming. It will attack the object model and boom, you're gone, right? So all this part has to be understood from AI monitoring. During COVID, some of the things we monitored was who are the people, who are our employees, and from where they're accessing, right? Network protocol, yes, we were able to validate that are the right people accessing the right things or not. Mukesh used to normally access this, but suddenly he's accessing 3 a.m. in the night continuously from an unknown area or not so known area. Yes, some challenge is there. Challenge it once, twice, thrice, and you can block that person out, right? A lot of those things has to be evolved over a period of time. One other thing which I did at Microsoft Bing, we used to get requests in 1 second, 5 queries. It's not humanly possible. So instead of just blocking it, slow down. You slow down the responses. And the attacker, this automated system probably will not be able to do a lot more damage to you. Denial of service attack will be slowed down further. And then, of course, unsecure remote access. Today, a lot of people say, hey, you know what, give me remote access on all of those space. And sometimes we just give the access. Very, very important part to prevent that from happening as well. Now, when you talk about it, we have historical data. Now, the word machine learning is very critical over here. Can we learn from historical data? Yes. But more important, if you look at some of this, So some of the things, if you notice, these are some of the classic historic attacks which have happened on industry. Not very common known because most of the time we are focused on in banking sector or IT sector, so not much of a focus on industry sector. So some of the attack, and this is something which I always use when I'm talking to several people, coaching them on how to be more careful in the industrial area, which is like a Stuxnet virus, a worm, right? First discovered industrial control system. It was attacked over there. Another one was Ukrainian power grid attack. This happened not so long ago, 9 years back, but it was a huge attack on the power grid itself. And some of the movies we see, right, those are some of the things possible there. And this one, Triton malware attack, was another one wherein safety system in Saudi Arabia petrochemical plants were impacted. So each of this area, when attacks happen, right, if you don't have guard systems in place and all, will be definitely a big challenge, and we all know that part. But the overall summary of this, what I'm trying to talk about is AI. How can we do this part? So let's look at the solution. So when you look at the solution, a couple of standards are already available. But I can tell you, I've been part of some of the standards. Of course, when the DPDP was being created, I was contributed through Niti Aayog. I did some of the deliberation there as well. And some of the other standards we see. But I can tell you, a lot of the standards are at least 10 years behind. So you may not get all the standards, right? You may not have all the standards, but then some of the standards will be very, very, I would say, starting point to at least do the checks and balance in place. And here is the solution. With artificial intelligence, how each and every element we can start looking into and start preventing this from happening, right? So some of the part would be, I would say, does it work? Right? Yeah. Data exfiltration, right? Here, looking at all of those parts where the failed attempt have happened. Even if a password was incorrect, even some failed attack, if we can start monitoring those, we get enough data to look at it. That's why I keep emphasizing machine learning, because there is a pattern which we can learn from. Okay? Then reconnaissance activity, right? How people, we are able to find out vulnerability further from multiple devices. That will be another way to look at those. Third part, privilege escalation. And that is the piece, very, very common in the organization we do that part. And I keep running this machine learning model on the data, historic data and all. I always flag some data points. Some people, some access to a privilege have happened and something wrong have happened. And then yes, definitely we find some pattern over there as well. Unusual activity. Now, Mukesh is supposed to only access this part. Why is he accessing this part today? Right? Even sending a message, sending an escalation and all. Yes, there will be 80% false positive. Still, good to catch some of those. And the best part I found out was brute force. Flag potential brute force attempts to gain access. Now, when people are attacking, right, they just don't do the traditional way of doing password and all. And even at Microsoft Hotmail and several other systems, day before yesterday, my Twitter got hacked. Luckily, I'm not celebrity, and luckily nobody posted anything. But it was hacked in the middle of the night. Morning, I see your password has been changed successfully, blah, blah, blah. All the messages from Twitter. Okay. I just go back, change the password again, and done. I looked at my activity, no, nothing was posted. So brute force attack. Was the password vulnerable? Maybe some other sites where it was leaked out, they just tried the same password, and maybe it was same password. But yes, it was possible for them to gain access to my Twitter as well a few days back. Discovering new threats. These are something which I think the best way to get is get those hackers in the room, right? We have one of the experts here, Sunny Waghela is over here. So getting somebody, of course, he runs a tech defense company, and the best way to learn is if you can start thinking in the hacker's term, right? If you start thinking about how things could go wrong, and then create a system, you probably will be a lot more easier and ahead. Running some hackathons and getting some ideas from the hackers and all, and building the system, AI-based system. So we do that regularly on a regular basis. We see this part. How do you discover new threats from those? Because you cannot just wait, hey, we'll have some wrong thing will happen 10 times, and we'll do machine learning, and then we'll learn from those. You may not be as lucky as much. The 10 damage have already happened by that time. Offense volume forecast. Now, this is a part wherein sometime, like what we talking about DDoS, right? The denial of service attack. But in that case also, if you start predicting, suddenly the volume goes up and can bring it down. So we need to be careful about those as well. That could be a security incident. When it comes down, we are a lot more vulnerable. Lot more vulnerable when we are bringing it up. We may not put all the guards up at that time. So having a forecast of that, cabin capacity will be important. And then email phishing. I keep getting an email from my Capgemini CEO saying, hey Mukesh, I'm in a hurry. Can you please transfer the 5,000 rupees over here? Mukesh, can you please purchase on my behalf this? Here is the link. I keep getting those emails from my CEO. I take a screenshot, delete it, and send to a CEO, hey, I got a message from you, by the way. Okay? Important part to notice, it's a lot of phishing happened. Just yesterday, day before yesterday, I got a mail from Cybercrime Department. I'm calling from Cybercrime Department. Your activity has been flagged. Click on this to respond. Delete was my response. And of course, attack pattern. All this part, right? So attack pattern for a company to company, it will vary. If it's a banking, it will be different type of attacks will happen. If it's an IT company, if it's a manufacturing, it will be different. So I think having those patterns understood is important. Last slide on this one, I would say, is the maturity level. And this is the part I would suggest. I think this is the key slide when we can say, if we want to do this in the organization, how would you mature, right? First thing, I think we do this part. We have emerging capability. We do VPAT. We do monitoring. We do all of those parts. That's the basic part to begin with, right? But that's where some of these things we define. If something like this happens, what do we do? The defined part is the reactive part, but still, at least something is documented. I would say more or less 80-90% company will be in the first two domains. They've already done it. The best part will be proactive. How can we integrate defensive operations? So having this TAD, having the mock drill done, understanding those part about industrial part where we are vulnerable, where something can go wrong, will be very, very key to know that part. And this is the part truly futuristic. I would say some of the company probably are inching towards that, but the model best would be here. How can we do adaptive, right? Adaptive, which means it is system, also human, and also we are continuously innovating in this area to be fully ready. And this is the part of predictive part of it that I can predict that, you know what, patterns like this, right? There is an election day, these kind of attacks may happen. The company is going public on this date, these kind of attacks will happen. All those things are pattern. And I can tell you, it's not flipping the coin and no, heads or tail, 50% chance, no. It is specific pattern people do on a specific day for a company. And that's where I think will be interesting to know. And most of the time when we are vulnerable, when we are upgrading or when we are going live, we are a lot more vulnerable. So being more careful over that, it will be important. And that's where some of the predictive part of AI/ML on predicting what can go wrong will be very important part of it. Okay? That's all I have to share. Thank you. On time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manish Dave, Head of Information Security, CISO at Aarti Industry, to do the honors.